We're going to be taking this budget van conversion and turning it into a luxurious camper van for me to be able to travel and explore, and something I can call home. However, in my mind, this seemed like an easy task, so I only gave myself a few months to do it in. What could possibly go wrong? Oh, yes! But first, there's something really important I need to check. It's not vapor barriered. Is it going to be sopping wet? Getting this off is going to decide whether or not we vapor barrier the next build. Now, there is a few things coming over to the new build, so that means we've got to take them out first. Got to drain the last of the water tank out, so it's just literally a case of turn the tap on and let it drain. And while we're waiting for that to drain, we're going to get the hob out. That really did go out smoother than I thought. For the sink, I'm just going to undo the fresh water coming in, poke it out the bottom. It'll go straight out to the outside of the van, and then I'm going to turn the pump on and just let it pump the rest of the water out the system. Drop it down just like that, leave it just there, then we can turn this switch on and the rest of the water should come out. There shouldn't be that much left in there, to be fair. For underneath the tap, I've just got a couple of little screws just there. That should just literally come off now with a big screw like that, and then the tap should just fall straight off. I want this tap in my next van. In theory, this was a tight fit, but oh no, that's not working. I was hoping to just hit it. Is it trapped? Resume in a minute. Why is this demolition just like so fun? I literally had to take the whole unit apart. What it was, the sound deadening on the sink was catching on the lip coming out, so I've just literally had to strip it apart to get it out. The 90-litre fridge freezer, that's coming out because we want that in the next build. Then it was just a simple case of pure, utter fun demolition. Oh, yes! That unit's all been destroyed, it's all down. But just look at the state of the van now. Nice to see the scan strut isn't leaking as well. That's where the cable entry gland, the dual one, comes from. It's where the Wi-Fi, the Max View Roam 5G 4x4, where the 4 antenna cables come through the roof. Not a single drop of leakage at all. I'm going to get all this dodo mat fleece off the roof, get all the thermal liner and the insulation off, and then I think it's time for a tip run. First panel, and guess what? It's bone dry. You can tell, look, no vapor barrier at all. We're chuffed with that. Let's get the rest off. But guess what? It's bone dry again. Absolutely bone dry. Starting to sway towards no vapor barrier, you know. Up here was something that I really wanted to show you. I found this bit really fascinating because this side, we've got the sound deadening underneath. You can see it there and a bit over there. Then we've got the thermal liner on the top, the dodo mat thermal liner. On top of that, we had the fleece. This side, however, I don't know why, but we just had sound deadening and the fleece. That's it. We had no thermal liner. This side was soaking wet all around it. Not so much on the actual sound deadening, but all the way around it, all the metalwork was soaking. This side was bone dry. So it just goes to show the importance of the thermal liner in my eyes. This section over here, I had the thermal liner on it perfectly fine, but I didn't have it right the way up, so it was a little bit wet further up as well. So the lesson learned was simple: thermal line everything. Now we're on about making the bed a bit wider. There they are. That's how much extra room we've got. So I mean, that's about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. Now for the bed, I've got screws in the middle of each slat, so I've got to zip them out, clean up the mess I've made so far, zip them out, and then measure from the back pillar all the way down the back, 136 centimeters forward. That's where the very first beam's going to go. This bed frame's quite cool, actually. I mean, just look at it. It can be completely universal. So you've got these brackets just here, and it comes directly from IKEA. And if you just tap it underneath, you can adjust it through this section just here. You can see how it gets longer and shorter, and it literally just clips onto that bracket just there. And you can have it any size, any length you want. They're the Scorva mid-beam. Let's see if I can see it. There you go, IKEA. Scorva mid-beam. It's the beam that's on the middle of most of their double beds. You can pick these up. They're when I got them, they were 20 quid each, but they don't come with the brackets. You can phone up the IKEA customer service and they can send you the brackets. But I just bought them off eBay. I bought 6 for like 20 quid, I think it was. With them back up in the original position that we want them in, that's the width of a double bed. I've started to run some cabling. I've got like the solar coming in, a couple of the cables there. Everything's all labelled, going out to wherever they need to go to. Get them down to where the fuse box is going to go. Sort of the start of the sort of first fix electrics. The electrics that need to go in before any panelling goes on. We had a productive night where we took out all the sound deadening and insulation throughout underneath the garage area and then re-insulated it. I thermal lined, sound deadened all the back area that I needed to do. I taped up some of the lines just there. I've got a dodo mat fleece, all the areas that need the fleece adding to it, including the full ceiling. Now that we're going full electric, I can pull this LPG sticker off. And that is the Dodo fleece. We've got the recycled bottle plastic from Dodo. It covers 3.7 square meters, some high temperature spray adhesive. This is actually quite a rewarding job because you can see the progression as you go through the process. Get one piece on, then another piece, and you just keep going and going and going until your van is insulated. Now we've left this part completely clear because that's going to be like an indentation, so the bed comes up to these brackets here and then it goes back to the back wall. That's just been sound deadened, thermal lined in the middle, taped up just to add for a little bit of a sort of vapor barrier-ish, because there's going to be no fleece on these areas. We're not too sure whether we're going to extend it to that area yet, so I've not done it just yet. Now before any panelling goes up, we have to sort the first fix electrics. I class first fix electrics as not just the big thick cables that need to go everywhere, but more so the cables that need to be hidden in the walls. So I've got to conduit everything and put it all together properly, but like you can see the cables hanging down there. Now one of them's for the max, one's for the front locker and one's for the max shade. You know the shades where you get the lights on? We're looking, or we're thinking about getting one of them, so I've ran the cable just to be safe anyway. We've got the solar cables coming in. This is for the shower vents. Everything is all labelled and it comes down here and straight out there. Again, everything is all labelled. The next job is boarding, and that's going to be a challenge in itself. It starts with removing the old Chinese diesel heater that we do have in place. Measure up the walls, but keeping in mind we still have the original paneling, so we can use that as a template to go down to B&Q and get the exact size wood that we need. We needed 9mm on the sides and 6mm on the roof. We're actually going to change the roof to a 9mm just because it's easier to get bulk 9mm than it is to not get bulk 9mm. We mark out, we traced out all the templates, we get everything in place perfectly and secure it in place. It's definitely worth measuring twice, maybe 3 times, then cutting once, because you will end up making mistakes just like me. We then set to with some metal self-tapping screws and secured all the boarding to the walls inside the van. The plan with the windows is to overlap it, and then we can simply get a router bit in there and router out the actual window opening. That was the plan anyway. This was definitely one of those jobs that I really wasn't looking forward to, solely because you've got to be so precise. I mean, yeah, I've made a few mistakes. We're moving on to the ceiling now. So all I've done is 5cm little struts of 9mm, so that we can just go straight onto this, and then the headliner can go onto the 9mm and into the metal, making it extra secure. Then it was time to start fitting the ceiling panels. We then marked out all the areas that we wanted to router and started routering them with a router tool. Didn't really go as planned. We made some dodgy looking corners. We'll be able to fix it later on in the build though. This was the finished result. Yeah, I'm covered in sawdust, but I'm proud of it so far. We've added 2 more extension pieces going down. The mattress comes to about there, so you ain't going to see what's underneath it. We're going to tape and seal all the sides where it meets the actual bodywork, the metal work itself, so we get a nice smooth transition. It's already been routed to give it a smooth transition, but we can make it a bit smoother. And then when we carpet over the top of it all, it should, in theory, be quite nice. That's the plan anyway. Now to start the max fan dome that's going to be the extractor fan for the shower. That's going to go in the roof. So we've got to get some of the insulation down so that we can figure out between the ribs on the roof where exactly that fan's going to fit. This is the fan itself. It comes in 3 different sizes. So that's the extractor fan itself. That's the channel that comes down through the inside, and there's also a light that goes with it too. I am, however, a little bit nervous of the fan hitting the uni-strut roof rack though. See, now ideally I would have preferred it there, but you can see the rib in the roof just there. Well, the fan itself hasn't really got a flexible rib where it seals over. So that is the only really place it can go. If it goes there, then it overhangs the door of the shower. If it goes too further back, then it hits the shower wall, which will be about there. So that's going to be towards the back end of the shower. That's where the cross members for the uni-strut go sideways. The other one, I've measured it to be about here. So in theory, that should clear the solar panels on the roof. Not the perfect location, but it'll do. I hope. So we've got the small drill bit, and what we're going to do with that is drill all 4 sort of north, south, east, west spots, and then go up on the roof. We can take the cowl that sits on there, go up on the roof, stick it on, mark the outline, cut that, and then we've got this little tiny notch just there. That is for the cables just there. I guess it's now time to go up on the roof, remove the solar panels and get that cut. I've just propped up the solar panels on this side with some spray glue, but look what I've just found. Scissors that have been there for, oh, I don't know, 6 months. They're from when I cut this butane tape to go underneath the uni-strut roof rack. But there's my holes, there's one, there's one, there's one. So I'm just basically gonna rig them all up and see where we end up. We've quickly just bored a starting hole down into a slightly bigger hole. Standard 522 Sikaflex. I don't need to treat it because it's an aluminium roof. I always go over the top when it comes onto roof stuff, so I'll be putting a massive big bead all the way around. I can always wipe up any excess that does go into the inside. And inside it just looks like that. So now all I've got to do is put the ceiling panels on. Well, I've got to get them cut, measured. Hopefully I measured that piece correctly so it fits on nicely. Same with the max fan. I've not bored you with the next bit, but we're starting to panel the ceiling out. The van looks so big and so empty and bare with nothing inside it. But we're ready for the flooring. I actually messed up and ordered too much of this flooring. It's the Ultra flooring. It's heavy wearing. It's basically the flooring that you have in hospitals. It's super thick. It's easy to go down. You just lay it down, cut it to the right size with a really, really sharp blade. Cuts out all the pipes that come through the floor, all the bits and bobs you need to work around. And then, hey presto, you've got a decent flooring. It came highly recommended from a load of high-end camper van conversion companies. It sticks down to the floor with high temperature spray adhesive. And I got it from Harrison Trims. It's now time to sort out the diesel heater. As you can tell, something fell on my face. I was moving the flooring around and it went donk straight on my face. Anyway, it's time for the diesel heater. And with that securely fastened down, we've got the fuel pump cable running down below. We've got the exhaust running down and the air inlet. All the work now is underneath the van. I've got to finish the electrics, but I wanted to tap that into the fuel tank, which is under the floor just here. I've got to connect the positive and the ground from there up to those cables just there. They come out over there, they're all labelled. Connect them to the fuse box, connect the fuse box to the buzz bars, connect the buzz bars to the battery. In this bag just here, we've got the carpet. Now the plan is to carpet in one go, one sheet, all the way down one side. But I've got one problem to solve first. You see, that's where our feet are going to be extended into the bed so that we can have the bed lengthways and I can fit perfectly fine. But to do that, we've got this little gap here. Now, because this gap fits onto that little groove just there, we can't just put a piece of wood behind there because it just wouldn't fit right. My woodworking skills aren't good to take into consideration all these grooves and get it nice and smooth. I figured this might work. Spray foam. This is probably going to go terribly wrong. I don't know, but if I don't try it, if it goes wrong, you learn not to do that. Luckily, I've got some recycled plastic bottle stuff in the back there, so maybe that might help. No, that looks like it's going to just blob down. Let's go straight down and then a bit more down there and maybe a bit there. I guess just leave that to cure for half an hour. That's what it says on the tin anyway. Whilst waiting for that to cure, we decided we'd tape some of the edges. This is just going to help slightly with giving a nice robust curve going all the way around. Time to unbox or unbag the 4-way stretch carpet. Now this is the first time I've actually seen the 4-way stretch carpet that I've ordered. I asked Danielle to order it for me, so in theory this is going to be absolutely perfect, and I must admit I am quite pleased with it. We wanted a colour that was not too dark but gave a nice grey hue to the areas. Not a lot of this is going to be exposed, but we need it in a few places. This is going to be adhered by Trim Fix Adhesive high temperature spray glue. Now for this van, being a long wheelbase VW Crafter, we only ordered 20 square meters. It comes in a 2 meter vertical roll of 10 meters long, so 20 square meters. This van from there all the way down to around that pillar is 4.5 meters. So we've only got a little bit left over to play with. I can't mess this up. This has to go well. There's nothing like adding a bit of nerves, but we're going to start at the front and work our way down to the back, solely to give it time to set and cure for this piece. And there's no turning back right now, is there? We spray in one corner first, get that adhered, and then we can start doing the rest of it. We get it up, we get our fingers into every little nook and cranny that we can possibly find. Then we move over to doing the next piece. This is where we start spraying on the actual board and on the carpet. Leave it to go tacky for about 30 seconds, whack it straight straight on, stick a hole through it for where the cable needs to come through. Now, I've not put any spray glue on this inside edge. That's because when it's fully glued outside, I can make a cut in the window and then go in with the spray glue. That way I know I'm going to get a good blade inside the spray glue, both on the metal and on the carpet itself. Sometimes you might find yourself underneath the carpet while it's stuck to the wall, sticking the rest of it to the wall. Might be worth wearing some sort of gas masky sort of face mask. The fumes are quite bad under there. They say 1 tin of spray glue, that's, what's that, 500 millilitres, a standard size tin of spray glue does 1 square metre of carpeting. And I can vouch for that, it's about right. Pay attention to your surroundings, because you might get a little visitor. Every time I open this van and start working, this cat just decides it wants to come in for a play. It's slowly coming together. I don't think I've ordered enough glue, but that's what I mean by the dips and the indentations. I've just basically put it on and then glued inside it and just pushed as far as I can. Even this part where the foam was, that's gone on really, really nicely. Over the top of the wood frameworks that I've done, that's gone on really nicely. I've cut the slots out there for the bed frame, so the bed frames actually click into there. I've pulled all the cables through. Let's see if this plan actually comes together. We want to get it on the black rubber at the top and then really force it into place. Let it go tacky for about 30 seconds before you push it on. It just holds that little bit better. No time like the present. Let's get started. It was about now I realised just how poor my math skills was. We've got to get the whole measurement from one side to the other, the whole way down the van, and then divide it by 2, get that centre line running the whole way down. Yeah, I think that line's pretty straight the whole way down. I've took the cowl off that and the one off the Max fan, so it's just a case now of stick that line on the material. Just look at that. Look at how thick it is. That's absolutely amazing. It feels so soft. Measure it out at 175. Divide that by 2 equals 87.5. Stick a little line. Do that throughout the whole roll. Get a straight edge. Line it all the way through. I think we're going to start down the back and work our way forward that way, because at the front of the van, if we do have a rough edge, we can tuck it into the headlining of the cab. High temperature spray glue. We've got our line. We've got our line, let's go. That looks so good. One thing I have just noticed, which I've not done, I've got the Max fan and the Max fan dome that I've not cut the hole in. So I've just basically got to go around, find where it is, stick a hole in, cut that shape out, and then it's done. We're under the bed and we've installed the electrics. Let me show you and run you through that. Very rudimentary, because I still need to finish loads and loads of bits and pieces. It starts with 2 200 amp hour lithium ion batteries, making it 400 amp hours. They're wired in such a way where it still keeps the whole system at 12 volts. It then comes up into this isolation toggle just here, so we can isolate the batteries if we need to. From there, it comes up into these buzz bars. They're the heart of this whole build. Let me run you through what they are. Inside them is a metal rod with loads of bolts. You can see all the cables running into it. There are 2 sides to this electrical system, the charging side and the discharging side. They all run through those buzz bars. So we'll talk about the charging side of it first. You've got this one just here. That's the Orion. That's the DC to DC charger. On the older vehicles, without a smart alternator fitted to the van, you need a DC to DC charger. If you've not got a smart alternator, then you can use a standard split charge relay. From the van's leisure battery, it comes in just there into the in. You can see the size of the cable, it's because it's a big one. And then coming out of it, you've got a positive and negative. They go through to the negative buzz bar and the positive buzz bar. And then from the buzz bar, you've got this one cable that runs down into our shunt. That tells us how much power we've got in the batteries. That obviously connects to the batteries. That's our solar charge control unit. You've got the solar panels coming into it just there and going out of it just there. They then go straight into the buzz bars. You've got the blue smart charger. That is for when you're plugged into an electric hookup. That will then come down, positive and negative, straight into the buzz bars. They've all got their fuses in their various different places to help protect both the instruments themselves and the cabling, and they can all be separately isolated. That's the main isolation to the battery, that's the isolation from the solar panels, that's the isolation from the DC to DC charger. Now let's talk through the discharge. Again, from the buzz bars, we have a cable coming positive into the bottom of the fuse box, negative into the top of the fuse box, and we've got all of our 12 volt systems all wired into that. It was a lot neater when I first put it together. It's not so neat now, needs to be sorted. Then off the buzz bars again, you can see the really thick cables. They go over to the 3000 watt inverter. Yes, it does have 2 cables each side. It's more efficient doing it that way to get the appropriate wire size than just 1 cable. Again, that's all fused behind that board. Bit of a stupid place for me to actually put the fuses because I can't access them if I need to, or if I do need to access them, I'm gonna have to get that whole panel off. Learn from my mistakes. For the fuse board, the 12 volt fuse board, we've got a little piece of card, again rudimentary way of doing it, but that shows us what fuses actually go to what in the van, and I just basically leave that just behind there. From the 3000 watt inverter, this is where we've bodged it. It's not right, we shouldn't do it this way. We've got 2 plug sockets on the outside just there, and a remote control switch coming off that into the main cabin. These run directly to this 240 set plug socket just here, and one goes straight to the induction hob. But I will advise everybody, do not follow my wiring from the inverter into the inside, because I should have a consumer unit which should have a 2-pole consumer unit with all the different 240 plugs wired into it separately. So from an external electric hookup point, which I don't have on this van, that's a future job, from the external hookup straight into the UPS function on the inverter. From that, one plug goes straight to the consumer unit, and then wired into that consumer unit is the induction hob, the plug sockets, the electric hookup charger, the Bluetooth charger, and then that is for the UPS function, and then eventually the 240 from the boiler can be wired into it too. Next morning was a morning that we've been waiting for such a long time. We're going down to Vanz Adventures. These are the company that have built our furniture for inside the camper van. This is how it all got installed. Over a month ago, we went down there and spec'd out everything that we wanted, paid the deposit. They gave us all the information we needed on how to board the van correctly to accommodate all the curves that this van actually has. All the units are built to fit those curves, so it needed to be perfect. We were gonna find out now. As soon as they've had a look at the van, it's time to start test fitting some of the furniture items just to see if they do actually fit with my boarding. The initial walkthrough came through perfectly. Now let's try and start chucking some stuff up. First was the overcab locker. Now this has to go up there first, just in place, so that they could line up the brackets that hold it to the ceiling, get them bonded, and give the bonding time to cure before actually fitting it. While the glue is curing, let me show you what I mean by the furniture is built to fit the curvature of the van. That locker is going up there. On that locker, the back of the roof slopes down 40 millimeters. The bottom is flat, the front is flat, but there is a slope from one side to the other side to accommodate that curvature in the roof. We have to get the boarding and the ceiling perfectly correct for this locker to fit. That part did set my nerves on fire, but Lee was always on the end of the phone if I had a question about boarding. It's time to get those brackets fitted. It's time to cut the hole in the headliner, go inside, clean all the insulation out, glue the brackets to the actual ceiling of the van. And while that glue's still setting, let's go back and show you my kitchen. When we spec'd this kitchen, we told him we want the fridge in this spot, we want the sink in this spot, an induction hob in a certain spot, so it's sort of built to our specific specifications. The fridge will be going on the side, but look at those soft closed drawers. We went for a slate grey and white combo, but it's time to test fit the overcab locker again, just to make sure it's in before the glue set. Right. But we're cracking on. We've got the headboard between the actual living quarters and the garage going in now. That fit perfectly, so it's time to move over to the shower cubicle. We're really starting to crack on with this now. However, next problem occurred. Because I'd fitted 9mm boards to the ceiling, we needed to trim down the height of the shower cubicle ever so slightly. Now that might not sound like a problem, but you've got to keep in mind these are made with the curvature of the van already pre-built, so we have to be careful on where we take that top piece from. And look, it doesn't even take up that much space in the camper van. They secured the back support braces, and then the front fascia of the shower followed quickly by the door. Now onto the thing that I've been most concerned about. This really does tell whether or not I've boarded the van correctly, and it fit. It fit absolutely perfect. All the advice that Lee at Vanz Adventures gave me regarding boarding this van, all the times that I've phoned him to ask for his advice, see what is the best practice to do, all paid off with this one split second of putting it up there and showing that it actually fit. Can't thank him enough for actually giving me all the advice. It was put the next one up next to it. The brackets bonded to the roof for the overcab storage were all sealed, secured and nice and ready for the overcab locker to go in there. They placed it into place, made sure it was extremely level before securing it in using the brackets and some side brackets. And again with this item, nothing was actually physically measured on my van. They just went off the measurements that they already have in the system on a CNC machine cutter to get the perfect curvature throughout this whole van. It's absolutely mind-blowing watching how good a quality of work they've done, both making the actual units and installing them for me. It's amazing how much the white fascias inside the van actually do bounce the light around inside. We were concerned it would be a bit too dark. We've ordered the Max Shade Plus fan cover, you know, the shade, but it's got the LED lights on it, so we've ordered that just to add a bit of ceiling light. But we never used lights in the last camper van on the ceiling. We just never used them, so we thought we won't put them in on this one. But it started to look a bit dark inside, so I didn't know what to do. But you can start to see it just there with the white shower, the white doors on the overhead lockers and the white doors on the front locker. They're currently just fitting the wiring harness cover over the top of the sliding door now. This is going to be so cool. One thing that has become apparent is we need to sort out the back doors. A little bit of trimming to the right size and securing it in place, threading some cables through for the LED light that I've got to install, and it was done. You see, with that wiring harness cover, I need to add a switch onto the light. These back doors are absolutely atrocious. They're just a piece of plyboard screwed into the metalwork, so I need to come up with some ideas for this. Let me know if you've got any in the description down below. Final finishing touches to securing that up in place, and we're done. Well, done with that thing. It's time to go fit the kitchen. I'm over the moon so far. This is amazing. It still baffles me just how far they went. Here they are adjusting the hinges on the door just to make sure everything is absolutely perfect. Now, I found Van's Adventures through their social media platforms. It was TikTok that brought me to them. I saw a video and I thought, oh, I love that. Let's go and check them out. And I've just started chatting with him and following him ever since then. I'd highly recommend, if you want to have a look at what he can do to the extent of the quality of the stuff that he does, check him out. I found him on TikTok. He's on Instagram, Facebook, all the normal sort of social media platforms. It was time to get the kitchen unit in. It was just a quick lift it into place, line it up to the depth and the width of the actual fridge, put it into the right place and secure it down. Now, they don't have my worktop to hand. It didn't come in from the supplier in time. So he's going to fit a temporary oak worktop to this just to tide me over for a few weeks until we can get back down there and get our worktop scribed out perfectly and installed absolutely amazingly. Now, because the shower is now installed and the overcab locker, we can now get the perfect measurement for the overcab locker that's going above that one just there, and the measurement for the single bed. Yeah. Why not like and subscribe if you are new around here? Far from finished, but here it is. Now that the shower's in and the overcab locker is in, we've got the correct measurement to do the locker that's going up there. That cable there is the cable for the dimmer switch light, which again I've already shown. You press it once and it comes on. Press and hold it. I love little tiny gadgets just like this. It dims down, press it again, it goes off. It is super cool. That's going to be the same as this one just up here, where we've got a gloss white front with a slate grey bottom and a slate grey sides. Having both that and that in at the same time means we've got the measurement for the bed. We've got the diesel heater already down there, so that's going to be actually coming out the front of the bed thing into the living areas. But there's also going to be a heater vent going into the shower room, and that's because the shower room is also going to be a wet room. So that basically means if we've got wet coats and stuff like that, we could just hang them up inside there, turn the diesel heater on and direct the heat directly into there. We've got a drying area. We'll put the fan on because we've got the fan up there. That'll get rid of any steam, any condensation, anything that builds up in there. This is like properly amazing. This has just blown me away. It really has. I mean, I have a camper van that actually looks like a camper van now. Although it looks like there's been a lot done, and there really has been a lot done to this van. Still a lot more to do. We're going to be installing our full camper van plumbing system. We've got a pull-out tap, a full shower unit, we've got hot, cold water, got a wastewater tank with all the wastewater plumbing to be able to do. But we start with the tap. We mark the centre line of the actual sink. We mark exactly where it's got to go. We have to be extremely mindful not to interfere with the upright that's blocking off between these two units here. Lift the sink out to gain access underneath where we found our first problem. The cables that we've got running towards the induction hob and the plug sockets is slightly in the way, so we need to get that straight down and relocate them. This is just a household tap. To fit it, it's just drill a 32mm hole all the way through after you've done a pilot hole, slot it in and secure the tap as you normally would with a household tap from all the way underneath. Connect up the weight pipe. This is just a pipe that the weight goes on, and connect the weight. Then you have your full action, your full moving tap ready to use. Then just drop the sink back in the hole. Next job is to move over to installing the shower, but there is a few issues. We've got these. That plate goes on the outside with that thread coming through into the shower wall. That's what screws onto the actual shower itself. However, there is a slight problem. If that's the case, it won't stick through because it's got to go through double thickness of the actual wall. So the pipes can go underneath the garage on the other side, but we've got the wood from the bedboard and the side wall of the actual shower to go through. So it means we won't be able to secure the plate from the outside with enough thread coming through to the inside of the shower unit to be able to secure the shower too. So what I've got to do is hole saw out the bedboard piece big enough to fit that piece, and then hole saw that size out inside the shower slightly different. But we're struggling to come up with an idea of how to get the holes through the shower wall perfectly level. But the floor isn't level. That's because the flooring is a slight slant, because it's like a washroom floor. So I can't measure from the floor up to get the level measurement. So what I think I'm going to have to do is drill the first hole and go through on the outside, measure 150 to the other side, and make sure it's the same distance from the floor to make sure it's level on the other side, because in the garage behind this bedboard the floor is level. I can't just use a standard spirit level because I'm parked on the 1-2. With only one shot at getting these holes right, we had to make sure it was perfect. Measured again, then drilled. We had absolutely no room for failure on this one, but we got the tails through. They've been secured on the outside by just one, nice and loosely. We put the shower on so that we knew it fitted perfectly fine. Then we secured it all from the back even tighter, wrapped all these with masking tape so that we could silicone seal absolutely everything behind. Again, the sanitary style silicone. Now we're going to take these off now that it's all fully secured down the back and secure the shower on there. That's more for peace of mind, just to double check it all still fits. And then it just looks like that. Now obviously we've got the shower head to go on, the pipe to go on, but it couldn't really go much higher because underneath the bed we've got the mattress comes down to about here, and then we've got the big steel Scorva mid beams from IKEA that go there, so it's just underneath there. It's easily accessible from the other side. So moving on to the tank, we got a 92 litre tank from Tanks Direct, one with a little tap fitting just down there, so I can stick a hose pipe onto it, but I've attached a blue cable, fitted those fittings in with PTFE tape. Just need to add a few more extra holes into that tank, one for the water inlet, one for the vent, and I might even add an overflow. The thing is, my water inlet comes in slightly below the top of the tank, so I can always just use that as an overflow. Once it overflows, I know it's near enough full. To cut the holes into that tank, I've got a standard hole saw, 51mm for the entrance coming in with a tank connector. That's going to be for the water inlet. When placing your water tank, you've got to think of weight. You don't want your van to be driving lopsided, where your tyres out and your suspension out on the heavier side quickest. So because we've got our batteries one side, we've got that slightly over on the other side. The same with the kitchen is on one side, opposite to the water tank. So we're going to be running extremely level with that tank full. Before you clamp on the tank connector, see all these frayed little edges? Make sure you clear them off. Me, I haven't got a deburring tool, so I just use standard little wire cutters just to run around and trim them off. If you don't do this, it will leak. We've managed to strap the tank in just for now. We might still leave part of that in. We've got the water inlet and the air inlet. Is it air inlet? Air outlet? It's the vent for the tank. Some of the larger tanks have vents built into them. This one doesn't. It's basically for when the water goes into the tank, the air can escape the tank. I've got a hole saw and I'm going to be running some holes through the bedboard. Just like that one there behind the fridge, and it's just to allow for my water pipes from my tap to go through into the back. We've already got the cables going through one. I've done this one for me water pipes. It's actually got a board on the back of it, so I can only run the pipes through half, but that's still big enough to get the pipes through. So that's going to be behind the actual fridge as well, so that makes it easier. And I've got another one there for a bit of ventilation. We're using a 12mm John Guest pipe. It's camper van specific pipework and fittings, just because it's made to withstand the abuse that comes with moving vehicles. It's red and blue, hot and cold. On the ends of them, after we've threaded them through, we've got these little fittings. Again, push fit. You can use a pipe insert to help keep the pipe round while it is all under pressure. These then connect up to the outlets that come onto the tap. They've already got washers inside them, so it was just a case of tighten them up and nip them up even tighter. From the tank straight up into the water filter, into the Sureflow Trail King 7 water pump over to the accumulator. Most of this stuff has come from my last camper van build, so it hasn't really cost me anything. However, what I have had to do with this one is change my water pump, because I had the Trail King 10, which is a 30 psi, and I had to change it to a 20 psi. That's because the boiler that's in that box only works on a maximum psi of 20. And this is the boiler that we've got, the bubble vans. Truth be told, I only got this one because it was cheaper than a Truma. But this one runs on 12 volt and 240 volt. Don't think because it's cheaper it's better. The 12 volt system has a 200 watt element inside it, just like an immersion heater. The 240 volt has an 800 watt element inside it, so it's dual element. You can rig it up to your inverter if you're completely off grid. You can rig it up to your electric hookup if you go on campsites all the time. I'm going to rig them both up and then turn them on and off depending on which one I want. So the dial on the front just here works for the 240 volt. The 12 volt and the Solaris system, which is the solar power system, works off the control panel, which I've got to try and find somewhere to put that. Solaris system that comes with the bubble vans is quite a neat little invention. It uses excess solar power from the solar panels. When they fully charge the battery, it will divert that extra power straight over to the water heater, heating up your water on the 12 volt system. The wiring isn't that simple. So without wasting half an hour of your time showing you how to use a push fit fitting, I've gone ahead and put it together, and now I'll explain it. Push fit fittings are literally a case of you push the pipe into the fitting. That creates the seal inside it. You have to make sure the pipe isn't burred, hasn't got any frays, and is cut nice and straight so that it does seal perfectly. We've got the hot and cold from the tap coming through here. That's been pinned to the wall in a number of places. This cable is the cable that runs for the water pump. We've hidden the switch for the water pump just to keep it out of the way. You don't need to have a switch, but this water pump is ran on pressure, so it detects when the pressure has dropped, i.e. when you've opened the tap and the water is starting to come out. That's when it will turn on. However, if you've got a leak in your van, it's best to have a switch that you can turn off to deactivate that pump altogether. That way it just doesn't run and run and run and empty your tank. So we'll start from the actual tank. You've got a water pipe that comes out all the way down there. That comes up here into the water filter or water strainer. That catches everything. I think I've actually put that upside down, so I'm going to have to turn that over. That goes then into the water pump, which is wired positive and negative to the fuse box, but on the positive we've teed off to the switch that we've hidden. Then it goes over into the accumulator. That enables it to keep constant pressure all the time. Out of the accumulator it goes down to the first T-piece, which is this one just here. That goes to the cold on the shower. It then goes to another T-piece which runs over to the sink. Then it's got straight down elbows straight into the water heater just here. It has got a drain pressure relief valve just there, which I still need to sort out. That's got a pipe going off it straight through the floor to outside. That's a safety feature. If it does overpressurize for whatever malfunctional purpose, it'll just open up that valve, drain it straight out the floor. You can always lift it to open it to be able to drain it out the floor too. You've got the hot that comes out of the boiler and it T-pieces just there. That then runs over to the kitchen sink and tees up to the shower just up there. Now it all looks rudimentary and DIY bodged behind there at the moment, but that's because once we've pressure tested it, filled it full of water, tried the hot water, let it expand and contract, then we can start making it look a bit tidier, hide some of the wires, reroute some of the pipework. We just need to make sure it's perfect first. We got that overhead locker installed with all the wiring, and then further down we even got the single bed installed. It's got 2 cupboards on the front, a little mattress on the top, and the heater vent poking out. We're about to put a bit of water in just to try for any leaks or anything like that. The most important thing, go around and double check all your joints. You've been doing a lot of joints, you may have missed one may have come slightly loose with all the wiggling around. They're all tight, everything's working perfectly. Let's get some water in. It's been that long since I've opened up the water fill cap on this, I forgot where the key was. But because I am doing all this work at the dubbed out headquarters, I need to sort of massively thank them basically, because they've gave me a dry area to work while it's raining. I've not got a hose pipe, so I'm just using a jerry can to pour it in. Yeah, that's not good. Again, thanks to dubbed out community, they had a couple of these fittings left over. Now that they're on and nipped up, I guess we go for take 3. That's where it was leaking from, the Jubilee clip out to the actual fitting. Replaced it with a couple of John Guest parts and a piece of John Guest pipe, the same as the rest of the plumbing system. The lads at Dubbed Out Community seem to think it's this pipe that I was using. This was from my old camper van. Basically, you can see the difference in pipe over here. So that is the pipe that was leaking. This is the John Guest pipe, you can't even squeeze it. To test it, what I'm doing is going down to that switch that I've got to on off the water pump, turning it on and seeing what happens. Keep an ear out for the water pump because you can hear the water pump. The idea is there's going to be no leaks, and then we can open up the tap, the shower, drain all the air out of the whole system, replace it with water. We have a fully functioning water system in theory. Let's turn it on. Grab the switch, you'll be able to hear it because I've moved you closer to it. I don't know if you can hear it. That's 10 seconds. Turn it off, go check for leaks. You're seeing this at the same time as me. That fitting is dry. All those other fittings, they might still have air in. There's a bit of water on that one just there. However, that could have been from the leak previously. So we'll just have a little look around, and at the minute it seems good. So let's try and get some of the air out the system. Now my wastewater isn't sorted yet, so what I've done is the waste for the sink, it basically just goes straight into a bucket, slightly off centered, so it might not actually work, but if we turn the pump back on and turn it over to cold, you can hear the air coming out. Oh, we've got water. Now this is where we turn it over to hot, and it seems that's the boiler filling up. All the air from the boiler is being replaced into water. However, the boiler holds 10 litres of water. And there is absolutely no leaks whatsoever. But the video doesn't end here. Got to wire up all the electrics for the Solaris 12 volt system, along with the 240 volt system. Then we've got all the wastewater to do. That's all the traps that are going underneath the sink and the shower, and running them over to a wastewater storage tank within the vehicle. It's actually going to be going underneath where the spare wheel used to go on this van. But I'm cheap, so I'm going to try and use an old water tank that I've already got and go from there. Either way, as we speak right now, we've both got cold running water with the spray function move around, and we've got hot running water with the spray and moving around. Just for safety purpose for now, I'm going to turn it off. So we're now marking out where the control panel is going to go and getting that cut out so that we can actually figure out exactly how long the cable runs need to be. That will determine how thick a cable we need to actually run. The longer the run, the thicker the cable has to be. A multi-tool is going to cut that hole out for us. Now that that hole's drilled, tested, fits perfectly fine, we clear it all up and we start installing the whole controller and the Solaris system. Run all the cables into the back that need to go to the Solaris and to the relay, and run it over to the fuse board, and the boiler plumbs straight into the actual buzz bars. Different size cables go up to the controller, to the fuse board, and from the boiler to the actual buzz bars, just because the different power ratings on all of them, but it's all wired up. It's all put into place. Now we can actually get the fuses, order them and try it out. But while we're waiting for the Amazon order to come out, we can remove the spare wheel carrier from underneath the van and measure the actual water tank that I've got to see if that'll work as a wastewater tank. And it turns out it will. First job, next morning, straight down to screw fix. I ended up getting myself some more metal strapping. We're going to use that to double over and connect up to some hooks which will hook into the chassis to hold the tank up. We've got the one there, we've got another one there. They both bolt up to the chassis. Here is where the 40mm waste inlets go. this is going to be an overflow. And the hooks have actually gone into the chassis rails, the supports of the actual van. But that is the tank secured underneath with plenty of ground clearance. Now don't worry about that blue pipe, because that blue pipe's going to be my wastewater drain. Yeah, it's only 15mm pipe, but it's only going to be grey water. There's going to be no solids in there, so that'll do perfectly. It'll just take a little bit longer to actually drain. To a standard quarter turn tap with a hose fitting on the end. That's just for those locations where you need a hose pipe to be able to drain your tank down, or let's say you've only got an Alson point, you can just connect a hose straight to it, straight in. I don't know, it just seemed like the easiest option. Now I've got the back end jacked up on the leveling ramps. I need to drive forward, get off them, put one underneath the front side, this side, to jack up this side. That's because it's time to start looking at plumbing the shower. I think we may have an issue here. I don't know, let's go and have a look. You see, the hole I've got going through the floor that has already got its fitting in is about, I don't know, this big. And I was hoping to just simply connect this pipe straight onto it, but I think this is a little bit smaller. There's the hole I've got to try and connect to, and then run it through the chassis all the way down to the waste tank, which should be just down there. I chopped a little bit of the pipe off, and it actually fits perfectly. It just screws on, it's really tight, so I'll stick that on with a Jubilee clip. So it's secured to the shower up there, then directly down there it's secured. Now top tip, that is a 32mm P-clip with a bit of rubber on it, and basically we've just stretched it out so it's no longer a P-clip, it's like a U-clip. And we've got another one just down there, and I can confirm I am still too fat to fit under the van. But that is the shower waste complete. We're now going to move over to the actual sink. Now if we do go underneath, you'll see we've got the nut and bolt under there. That doesn't suit for this style of waste, so we've had to go out and buy yet another one. Now this is quite cool because it is just a standard flat sort of, I don't know, and the 40mm tube, the waste tube, just goes straight over there with Jubilee clip to it, run it straight from this straight into the floor underneath, and then all the way up to the waste tank, exactly the same. That is in theory anyway. Well, this is all based on whether or not that new trap actually fits this sink. I mean, they do kind of look about the same size. The problem I'm thinking is this actual rim is going to be bigger than the indentation rim that we've got going around there. You see how it dents in? So that's the normal bog standard foam washer that comes with it. And if this doesn't sit into it, which it, oh, that's a bit, oh no, that doesn't fit properly. But because we have just taken a trap out, the trap had this little rubber washer. So if I can drop that on there, that might space it out just a little bit, center it all up, drop it back in, and that fits a little bit better. I'm hoping this doesn't leak, but it comes with this big bolt here that goes through the middle into the trap that's directly underneath and screws down and tightens down, so hopefully it doesn't leak. Only time will tell. With a 50mm hole drilled through the floor, that pipe then goes up behind this shelf and into the back of this trap, and then it's just plumbed straight down into the tap, and then the pipe is P-clipped straight up to the chassis. We've sealed up the inlet and treated and sealed up the outlet on the other side on the floor of the van. Sealed all the sink in, sorted out the problem we had with the shower. We're not happy with this fix, but it's going to have to do for now. It's a 3/4 thread on the actual shower. So we've found out that this shower is the one where a pole goes on there up to a rainfall shower head, and it's made to fit as a kit just like that. So what we've had to do is a female 3/4 inch to a male 1/2 inch, and then it goes up like that. We've had to pack it out with a couple of washers to be able to get it sorted, but it's actually working. We come back to our fuse board area. We turned off all of the isolators so that we could access the two buzz bars, then positive and negative. We needed to tie into that with a 25 amp fuse. That's the power for the boiler. Up on the top up here, we had another controller, positive and negative, coming in. That's controlled by a 5 amp, and you can see all the units just down there. I'd try and tell you how to program both the controller, because I've just got the single controller, and the Solaris controller. But the best thing to do is to follow the instructions that you get given and watch the video of programming the Solaris. I'll leave them linked in the description, those videos, because they explain it a lot better than I could ever explain it. This is the first time I've ever had hot water inside a camper van, so it's all new to me. It's now time to test everything. The nerve-wracking part of leaks. we had one leak just there. I hadn't tightened it down enough, so we've tightened that down. Now, if we turn the shower on, I think that is really good power. What do you think? I might have to get some sort of apparatus, suction cup or something, just to stop that rattling while I'm driving. So I'm doing this mainly to check the trap to see if there's any leaks down there. We've turned the heating on to see whether it actually works. We've figured out these switches. The first one turns on the Solaris. The second one turns on standard 12 volt setting. You can run that on 240 volt as well. It's just a simple case of plug it into the inverter. Now that's the rudimentary way to do it. You're supposed to go over to a fuse spur through a standard consumer unit. In here we had two leaks. One of them was all the way down there. There's a little Jubilee clip. I had to just nip that up ever so slightly. And the next one is again this elbow that I thought I'd fixed. What I think's happened here is I've cut this piece of pipe just a little bit too short, and it's putting a bit of stress on that junction, and it's not sealed 100% correct. So what we did was we basically replumbed everything to make it look a lot nicer, and so there was no strain on any of the joints. We wanted to test it in the real world scenario. So me and Danielle decided to shoot to the Lake District. An 80-mile drive up the M6 would check to see if vibration would loosen off any of the joints. So when we did get up there, we had a lovely little walk around Derwent Water, but then went back to the van, turned on the water pump just to see if any water had escaped. You'll know that if the water pump turns on and you can hear the water pump, then water has escaped, the pressure has dropped in the system. But we were actually lucky on this scenario. We picked up some dessert from the market, then went to Wetherspoons and had ourselves a nice tea. Got back to the van and had our dessert. Then we could test the hot water to see if it was hot enough and to see whether any leaks would occur when we were doing the washing up. Everything worked absolutely perfectly, so we went for a little walk around Whinlatter Forest. We decided a nice hot sweaty walk, and then we could test the shower when we do get back slightly later. We had a good game of ping pong while we're here. I've recently found out I'm not that good at ping pong. We spent that night off grid because I wanted to see how much electricity the water heater would actually use, both turning it on for hot water while we were washing up and hot water for the shower. Turns out it worked absolutely perfectly. The next morning was a little walk around Air Force waterfall. Then we started to head back to the northwest. If you are new around here, please subscribe. We're trying to get to 50,000 subscribers and you can help. Plus, it's completely free. I've got the B pillow covers to do. The thing that whatever I'm going to do down there, B pillow cover over there. I've got to wrap it all in suede. I've got to somehow fix this light up so that this light actually starts working, and I've got 3 days to do it in, and one of those days the van's in the wrap shop getting some wrap work done to it. I've turned the swivel seat around. It was time to measure up the gaps that we need. We're just going to go and cut one big piece at the biggest section, then we can just line it up against where we need to go, get a pencil and scribe it from the back, then we can cut it out. We got our original outro flooring, lined it up and cut it to shape to cover the bottom piece. High temperature spray glue, managed to stick it on perfectly. Now the idea that I've got for that is use this sealing material, embossed suede, to go on the back doors, but I did it on this panel on the sliding door, and I've ended up with these like pin clips just sort of popping out, and I don't want them to show on the back door, so I've got an idea. But first I need to get everything off the back doors because I want to reuse the wood and save myself a bit of money. I've got to get the coat hooks off, I've got to get that off, that off. The other door hasn't got anything on it, so that should be pretty fine. The way we're doing it involves these little clips here. I think they're called Christmas tree clips. We get the panel off the door, and it's quite nice to know that it's like bone dry under there. It's just a nice little added factor. Some of the holes we drill out to 8mm. We drill the subsequent hole out on the actual panel to 8mm. We put this clip through there, and then we carpet over it. Then in theory, these clips should just bash straight into these holes when the panel is fully carpeted and fully lined. I've just got to hope these are actually long enough to go through the wood and get a good grip into there when the carpeting's actually on. Now before I even start gluing, you can see what I'm doing, the pins are sticking through, and then I'm going to cut it, wrap it around and stuff like that. Just a case of shake up the spray adhesive, and I pick it up in one corner straight onto the back edge because that's the straightest, and start going mental. No, I'm not, because there's a crease in it just there, and we don't want creases in it. Oh, that's typical, isn't it? Right. I've still not turned the panel over yet to check what it's like on the other side, but all I'm doing is dropping a bit of spray glue on, folding it over, then I've got a staple gun which I found in the bottom of my toolbox, and I'm just dropping a few staples in just to keep it nice and tight throughout. When it comes round to the pins, I'm cutting it all out on all the pins so that hopefully that fits in really nice and snug and holds it nice and secure. It's just a case now of turn it over, see what it's like, and then go and put it up against the actual door. In theory, it should just clip straight into the holes that I've already put on the actual door. You know what? I am absolutely delighted with that. That is really, really nice. So there's the before, just a standard whiteboard. There's the after. I think it looks quite smart. Just got to dodge the rain to get through and do the other side now. The van is very, very nearly complete now. I just come inside, fitted it, stood here, and I'm in awe. It really is starting to come together. Let me show you. Just look at how nice that is. And without even knowing, I've managed to match it up, kind of. I mean, it's slightly out the whole way up, but not by much. I am properly chuffed with that. I mean, I need new bedding, which I'm getting some for the Dubbed Out Festival, but I'm in proper awe over this. Off down to Superior Wraps in Wigan to get a new makeover on the van. I'll show you that after I've done a bit more work. Anyway, it's time to move over to the Suede for the B-pillars, because that's just arrived. I'll show you the van a little bit later. This is the Suede we've got. So it's just like this. You can see that. Look at that. Whoa, I love it. It's absolutely amazing. And it matches the ceiling absolutely perfect. It's from RC Fabrics. Again, the same company that done my ceiling, that's done my back doors. That's going to look absolutely amazing wrapping around there. But I've got that little switch to try and fit in just up there. Got a little hole saw to be able to get it into where I want it to go. Thread the cable through the back there, down behind there, connect it up to this, done. Well, done for in here. I still need to connect it to the fuse box that's in the garage. How absolutely gorgeous does that look? We'll put the handle back on. It's really, I'm so stoked with that. It just matches the ceiling absolutely perfectly. Whoosh. Let me walk you through it because I'm well chuffed with this. So we've got the matte black on the bonnet, and that follows the actual line going all the way around the bonnet that's naturally on there. And we tied it in with that little piece down there. I had to take off my little tag down there. I reckon that looks absolutely banging. We've got the matte black stripe running down the side, and it's teed off on the end by just a nice gentle slope with the YouTube tag just there. If you're not already, subscribe. We've got the window. Now, if you remember my last one, it finished about here up to about here, and it was all janky and stuff, and it had a piece missing out the top. So I love the way that looks now. Just as a general side profile, it looks absolutely mental. The other side of the van is exactly the same, again with the YouTube tag. The back, there's a little bit of a difference, not a massive one. Like I said, I still wanted to keep my janky looking back windows because it's a cool story to tell. And then on the top, you're definitely going to know who you're following when you're following behind that, which is quite lucky because I drive around at 60 miles an hour, so that'll be perfect. Everyone's overtaking me. It's like free advertising. Then we've done some outside modifications. Whoosh, let's check it all out. We've got the bull bar at the front with the two big aux beam lights just there. They do have an amber filter for them, but I haven't put them on just yet. We've got two ditch lights, one there, one there. Again, they've got an amber filter on, and it looks absolutely stunning. We've got the side steps. They came from Vanstyle. That was, oh yes, it's all coming together really nicely. And then from Vanstyle again, we got the pull-out awning that comes out to round about here. It literally doubles the inside space. So I thought this winter that is going to be absolutely vital for me to still be sitting outside, but yet still be undercover sort of thing. Above the wheel just there, you've got the big wheel arch extensions. Again, that came from Vanstyle. I am over the moon with how this van has turned out. If you've not already, please subscribe.